You think 50 mechanics couldn't fix it, but some homeless girl with dirt under her nails can? Jackson Reaper Donovan slammed his fist on the workbench, his $1.5 million custom Harley sitting dead in the center of iron and chrome garage like a coffin. 8 hours, 50 of the best mechanics in the state, and nothing. The bike that had never failed him not once in 10 years refused to turn over. Before we dive into this story, hit that subscribe button and stick with me until the very end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's get into it. The wrench hit the concrete floor with a sharp clang that made everyone in the garage flinch. Tommy Rodriguez, head mechanic at Iron and Chrome, wiped the sweat from his forehead and stepped back from the Harley like it had personally insulted his mother. "I don't get it, Reaper," Tommy said, his voice cracking with exhaustion. "We've checked everything. Fuel system's clean, spark plugs are new, compression's perfect, timing's dead on. This bike should be purring like a kitten, but it's deader than disco." Jackson stood with his arms crossed, his leather vest bearing the Hells Angels patch stretched across shoulders that had seen 5 decades of hard living. His jaw was set so tight you could crack walnuts on it. Around him, mechanics shuffled their feet and avoided eye contact. The air in the garage smelled like motor oil frustration and something else, fear. "Someone tell me how a bike that was running perfect this morning just dies in the middle of Highway 9, Jackson said quietly. When Jackson spoke quietly, people listened. When he yelled, people ran. No warning, no sputter, just dead. Marcus Chen, a master technician who'd worked on everything from vintage Indians to modern Ducatis, shook his head. "We've been over every inch of it, Jackson. Electrically, mechanically, it's sound. On paper, this bike should run, but it won't even turn over." "On paper," Jackson repeated, his voice dripping with contempt. "On paper means nothing when I'm stranded on the side of the road like some weekend warrior whose Sportster crapped out." The mechanics exchanged glances. Nobody wanted to be the one to say what everyone was thinking. They were stumped. Completely, utterly stumped. "Let's go through it again," Tommy said, reaching for his diagnostic tablet. "Maybe we missed something in the—" "You've said that 4 times, Jackson interrupted. "You've been through it 6 times. At what point do we admit that maybe, just maybe, this isn't a normal breakdown?" The word hung in the air like smoke. Normal. Because nothing about this situation was normal. A custom Harley Davidson built by master craftsmen, maintained with obsessive care, doesn't just die for no reason. Bikes like this were more reliable than most people's heartbeats. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" asked Diego Ruiz, one of the younger mechanics, his voice barely above a whisper. "Don't," Tommy warned. "I'm just saying, don't say it." "Sabotage," Diego said anyway. The word hit like a physical blow. Several mechanics stepped back instinctively. You didn't throw around accusations like that lightly, especially not about a Hells Angels bike. That was the kind of talk that got people hurt. Jackson's face remained perfectly still, but his eyes went cold as January ice. "Who?" "Nobody," Tommy said quickly, shooting Diego a look that could melt steel. "The kid's talking nonsense. He's been up for 16 hours straight. Diego, go take a break." "I'm not wrong," Diego protested. "You all know it. A bike doesn't just break room now." Tommy's voice had an edge that made it clear this wasn't a suggestion. Diego opened his mouth to argue, then thought better of it and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous garage. Jackson watched him go, then turned his attention back to the Harley. He walked around it slowly like a predator, circling prey. His boots scuffed against the oil-stained concrete. Behind him, the other mechanics held their collective breath. "How long have you worked on bikes, Tommy?" Jackson asked. 23 years. "And in those 23 years, have you ever seen anything like this?" Tommy hesitated. Honesty warred with the desire to provide comfort to smooth things over. Honesty won. "No, never." "Marcus, same. This is unprecedented." Jackson nodded slowly. He reached out and put his hand on the Harley's fuel tank, his palm flat against the custom black paint job that had cost more than most people's cars. "This bike is my life. You understand that? Not just transportation, not just a hobby, my life." Nobody spoke. What was there to say? "So when someone messes with my life," Jackson continued, his voice still that dangerous quiet, "I take it personal, real personal." The mechanics shifted uncomfortably. This was heading somewhere dark, somewhere none of them wanted to go. Boss, Tommy started, let's not jump to. The sound of a mop bucket scraping across the floor cut him off. Everyone turned to see Leah Turner pushing her cleaning cart toward the back of the garage, her head down, long dark hair falling across her face like a curtain. She wore oversized coveralls that had probably belonged to someone twice her size, and her sneakers were held together with duct tape. Girl, Tommy called out, "This ain't the time. Come back in an hour." Leah didn't respond. She just kept pushing her cart, the wheels squeaking rhythmically. "Hey," Tommy raised his voice. "You deaf, I said, come back later." Leah stopped. She looked up, and for the first time, Jackson really saw her. She couldn't have been more than 23, 24 tops. Her face was smudged with dust, and there were dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. But her eyes were sharp, alert, taking everything in. "I can fix it," she said. The garage erupted in laughter, not polite chuckles, but full-throated guffaws. Marcus actually doubled over. Diego, who had been lurking by the break room door, let out a whistle. "Oh man," Diego gasped between laughs. "That's rich. That's really rich." "Sweetheart," Tommy said, trying to control his amusement. "With all due respect, we've got 50 mechanics with decades of experience who can't figure this out. What makes you think?" "The clamp on the primary ground wire is misaligned," Leah said, her voice steady. "And there's a severed ground under the seat that's been deliberately cut and tucked back so it looks connected but isn't making contact." The laughter died like someone had flipped a switch. Tommy's smile faded. "What did you just say?" "The ground wire," Leah repeated. "Someone cut it partway through and positioned it so it would hold for a while, then fail when the vibration worked it loose. That's why it died on the highway. The bike's been running on partial ground, and when that last connection gave out, everything shut down." Marcus stepped forward, his face serious now. "How could you possibly know that you've been looking at the bike?" "I've been cleaning this garage for 6 months, Leah said. "I watch, I listen, I learn." "You watch," Jackson said, speaking for the first time since she'd opened her mouth. His eyes were locked on her like missile guidance systems. "And what exactly have you seen?" Leah met his gaze without flinching. "I've seen you maintain that bike like it's your child. Change the oil every 1,000 miles instead of 3,000. Check the cables every time you ride. You don't take chances. So when it died today, I knew it wasn't normal wear and tear." "That doesn't explain how you know about the ground wire," Tommy interjected. "Because I saw it," Leah said simply. 3 weeks ago, I was mopping under the workstations and I saw someone working on your bike after hours. Thought it was weird because you always work on it yourself." The temperature in the garage seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jackson's voice was barely a whisper. "Who?" "I don't know names," Leah said. "Tall guy, bald, tattoo of a snake eating its tail on his forearm. He was real careful, real quiet, worked fast. I thought maybe you'd asked him to do something, so I didn't say anything. But I watched what he did." "Jesus Christ," Marcus breathed. "She's describing Vincent." "Vincent Cross," Diego's voice cracked on the name. "Shut up," Tommy hissed. But it was too late. The name was out there, hanging in the air like a curse. Jackson's hands slowly curled into fists. "Vincent was here, in my garage, touching my bike." "We don't know that," Tommy said quickly. "She could be mistaken. It could have been someone else." "Snake eating its tail," Jackson interrupted. "Ouroboros, Vincent's signature tattoo, he got it the day he joined the club 20 years ago." The mechanics exchanged glances. Nobody wanted to be in this garage right now. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near this conversation. "Vincent was kicked out 5 years ago," Marcus said carefully. "He wouldn't dare." "Wouldn't he?" Jackson's laugh was harsh and ugly. "Man loses everything, his club, his brothers, his reputation. You don't think he'd want revenge?" "But why now?" Diego asked. "Why wait 5 years?" "Because revenge is a dish best served cold," Jackson said. "And Vincent always was patient." Leah cleared her throat. "I could check the wire, confirm it. Take me 5 minutes. "You," Marcus scoffed. "No offense, kid, but we're talking about $1 million machine here. You work a mop, not a wrench." "I know bikes," Leah said quietly. "Everyone knows bikes in this town," Tommy shot back. "Doesn't mean you can work on one, especially not one like this." My father was a mechanic, Leia said. The words came out flat, emotionless, like she was reciting a grocery list. Raymond Turner, he worked at Coastal Custom Cycles for 15 years before he died. Recognition flickered across Tommy's face. Ray Turner, ye knew Ray. Good man, great mechanic. I didn't know he had a daughter. He had three, Leia said. I'm the only one who paid attention when he worked. Jackson studied her with new interest. Ray Turner's kid. I'll be damned. Your old man built some beautiful machines. Did a custom chopper for Charlie Chains Martinez back in the day. Absolute work of art. I remember that bike, Leia said, and for the first time there was warmth in her voice. Took him 8 months. He hand-fabricated every piece of the frame. So you know your way around a garage, Jackson said. It wasn't a question. I grew up in one, started handing my dad tools when I was 5. By 12, I could tear down and rebuild a shovel-head engine blindfolded. Then what the hell are you doing pushing a mop? Diego blurted out. The warmth vanished from Leia's face like someone had turned off a light. Life happens. Things fall apart. You end up where you end up. An uncomfortable silence settled over the garage. Everyone had heard versions of this story before talented people ground down by circumstances, by bad luck, by a world that didn't give second chances. Jackson broke the silence. You really think you can fix my bike? I know I can, Leia said. And if you're wrong, if you mess something up, then I'll be wrong, but I won't mess anything up. The confidence in her armies wasn't arrogance. It was something else. Certainty, the kind of certainty that came from knowing, not guessing. Jackson looked at Tommy. What do you think? Tommy ran a hand through his hair, leaving it standing up in greasy spikes. Boss, I think we're all exhausted and desperate and maybe not thinking straight. This is a homeless girl who cleans floors. No offense, he added, glancing at Leia. None taken, she said flatly. But Tommy continued, we've tried everything else. And if she really is Ray Turner's daughter, she might actually know what she's talking about. Ray could work miracles with a wrench. Marcus shrugged. Can't hurt to let her look. We're out of ideas anyway. Diego, I say let her try. What's the worst that could happen? She could destroy a $1 million motorcycle, Tommy said dryly. It's already destroyed, Diego pointed out. It won't even start. Jackson turned back to Leia. His eyes searched her face, looking for something: uncertainty, fear, deception. He found none of those things, just that steady, quiet certainty. All right, he said finally. You got 10 minutes. Touch anything you're not supposed to and we're done. Understand? I understand, Leia said. And everyone watches, Jackson added. Every move she makes, someone's eyes on her. Leia walked to the Harley. The mechanics parted like water, giving her a clear path. She set down her mop, wiped her hands on her coveralls, and approached the bike with the kind of reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. It's beautiful, she said softly, running her hand along the fuel tank. Custom paint job, hand-laid pinstripes. That's real gold leaf in the details. $20,000 paint job, Jackson confirmed. Worth every penny. Leia walked around the bike slowly, her eyes scanning every inch. The mechanics watched her like hawks watching a field mouse. She knelt beside the primary drive cover. Socket set, 3/8 drive, 10 millimeter. Marcus handed her the tool without a word. Leia worked quickly and efficiently, her movements precise and confident. She removed the primary cover, exposing the clutch assembly and the electrical connections underneath. There, she said, pointing to a thick black wire. See how the clamps rotated about 15 degrees off center? That's putting pressure on the wire in the wrong direction. Not enough to break it immediately, but enough to work it loose over time. Tommy leaned in to look. Son of a bitch, she's right. I checked that clamp twice and didn't notice. Because you weren't looking for sabotage, Leia said. You were looking for normal failure. Different mindset. She reached into the cavity beneath the seat, feeling around blindly. Her face concentrated, her fingers searching. Then her expression changed. Found it. She pulled her hand back out, and between her fingers was a ground wire. The end was frayed and corroded, clearly severed. This wire should be connected to the frame mount, right here, Leia said, pointing to a bolt near the battery box. But someone cut it, tucked it back so it looked connected from a casual inspection, but it's not making contact. No ground means no circuit completion. No circuit completion means no start. The garage was so quiet you could hear the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I need a wire stripper, fresh ground, wire 12 gauge should do it, and a soldering iron, Leia said. You're going to solder it, Tommy asked. Why not just crimp a new terminal? Crimps can fail, Leia said. Solder is permanent. This bike deserves permanent. Jackson nodded slowly. Get her what she needs. The mechanics scattered gathering tools and materials. Leia worked in silence, stripping the old wire, preparing the new connection. Her hands moved with practiced ease, the muscle memory of thousands of hours in her father's garage. Why'd you stop? Jackson asked suddenly. Working on bikes, I mean. If you're this good, why are you cleaning floors instead of turning wrenches? Leia didn't look up from her work. My dad died when I was 16. Heart attack. Right there in the garage, middle of a valve job. My mom fell apart, started drinking, lost the house. My sisters went to live with relatives in other states. I stayed with mom, tried to keep her together. And she died too, 3 years later, liver failure. By then I had nothing, no home, no family, no money. I was 19 years old and living in my car. That was 4 years ago, Jackson calculated. What have you been doing since? Surviving. Leia held the soldering iron to the connection, the tip glowing orange. The solder melted and flowed, creating a perfect joint, mostly just surviving. She finished the ground wire, then adjusted the clamp on the primary connection, torquing it to the exact specification. Then she reassembled the primary cover, working backwards through the steps with the same precision. Try it, she said, stepping back. Jackson approached the bike like it might explode. He swung his leg over the seat, settled his weight, and reached for the ignition. His hand hesitated over the key. If this doesn't work, Tommy started. It'll work, Leia said. Jackson turned the key. The Harley's engine roared to life with a sound like thunder made mechanical. The deep, throaty rumble that only a perfectly tuned V-twin could make. The sound that Harley Davidson riders heard in their dreams. The garage erupted in cheers. Mechanics whooped and hollered, slapping each other on the back. Diego actually hugged Marcus, who looked startled, but didn't push him away. Jackson sat on his bike hand on the throttle, feeling the familiar vibration running through the frame and into his bones. His eyes were closed and there might have been moisture at the corners, but in the dim garage light, nobody could tell for sure. He opened his eyes and looked at Leia. You did it. I did it, she confirmed, in 10 minutes. 8, actually. Jackson killed the engine and climbed off the bike. He walked to Leia slowly, deliberately. She stood her ground, meeting his eyes. Thank you, he said. You're welcome. But we got a problem now. The celebration died down. The mechanics went quiet again, sensing the shift in Jackson's mood. Vincent knows I know, Jackson said. Or he will soon. And if he was willing to sabotage my bike once, he'll try again. Or worse. Worse how? Diego asked nervously. Worse like I end up in a ditch somewhere with a knife in my back, Jackson said bluntly. Vincent doesn't do things halfway. Never did. That's why we kicked him out. He took things too far. Always too far. We should call the cops, Tommy suggested. And tell them what? Marcus countered. That we think someone sabotaged a motorcycle based on a janitor's testimony. They'll laugh us out of the station. He's right, Jackson said. We need proof. Real proof, not speculation. I can get you proof, Leia said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. How? Jackson asked. Vincent didn't do this job himself, did he? He had help. He's been out of the club for 5 years. He doesn't have easy access to this garage anymore. Someone let him in. Someone who works here. The implications hit like a bomb. The mechanics looked at each other with sudden suspicion. Friends became suspects. Trust evaporated. You're saying we got a traitor, Jackson said slowly. I'm saying someone gave Vincent access after hours, Leia clarified. Whether they knew what he was planning or not, I don't know, but someone opened that door. Who? Tommy demanded. Who would? I don't know yet, Leia interrupted, but I can find out. I'm invisible here. Nobody pays attention to the cleaning lady. I can watch, I can listen, I can figure out who's been talking to Vincent. That's dangerous, Marcus said. If Vincent finds out you're onto him, he won't, Leia said with that same quiet certainty, because I'm just the janitor. Nobody important, nobody threatening. Jackson studied her for a long moment. You realize what you're offering to do? you'd be putting yourself in the crosshairs. I'm already homeless and broke, Leia said with a bitter smile. How much worse can it get? Dead, Jackson said flatly. It can get dead. Vincent's not just dangerous, he's smart, calculated. If he even suspects you're investigating him, he'll eliminate the threat. That's you. Then I won't give him reason to suspect. Why, Jackson asked. Why would you do this? It's not your fight. Leia looked at the Harley, then back at Jackson. Because you gave me a chance when nobody else would. Because for the first time in 4 years, someone looked at me and saw something other than trash. Because, she paused, searching for words, because I need to matter again. The vulnerability in those last words hit harder than anything else she'd said. Here was a young woman who'd been ground down by life, dismissed and discarded, fighting to prove she was worth something. Jackson made a decision. All right, you're in, but we do this smart, no cowboy moves. You see something, you tell me immediately. You hear something, same deal. And you don't under any circumstances confront Vincent or whoever's working with him. Clear? Clear, Leia agreed. And one more thing, Jackson added. He reached into his vest and pulled out a knife, a folding blade with a wicked-looking edge. He held it out to her. You carry this all the time. Someone comes at you, you don't hesitate. You use it. Leia took the knife, feeling the weight of it in her hand. I don't know if I could. You could, Jackson said. When it's your life on the line, you'd be surprised what you can do. Trust me. Leia nodded and slipped the knife into her pocket. All right, everyone, listen up, Jackson announced to the garage. As far as anyone outside this room knows, the bike's still broken. We're still trying to figure out what's wrong. Nobody, and I mean nobody, mentions that it's fixed or that Leia figured it out. Got it. A chorus of agreement rippled through the mechanics. Good. Now get back to work. We got other bikes to fix and customers waiting. The mechanics dispersed slowly, still shooting glances at Leia as they returned to their stations. The normal sounds of the garage resumed, air tools hissing metal, clanking radios playing. Jackson pulled Leia aside, his voice low. Starting tomorrow, you're not just cleaning. You're watching every person who comes in, every conversation, every phone call. You're looking for anything that doesn't feel right. What am I looking for specifically? Hell if I know, Jackson admitted. But you'll know it when you see it. Trust your gut. Your gut fixed my bike when 50 experts couldn't. I'm betting it can catch a traitor too. And if I do find something, then we'll deal with it together. Jackson put a hand on her shoulder. You're not alone in this, kid. You got the whole club behind you now. Leia felt something crack inside her chest, some frozen part of her that had been locked away for years. It took her a moment to recognize the feeling. Hope. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, Jackson said grimly. We're about to poke a hornet's nest. Things are going to get ugly before they get better. He was right about that. Neither of them knew just how ugly things were about to get. The next morning, Leia arrived at Iron and Chrome at 5:30, 90 minutes before the garage officially opened. The parking lot was empty except for Jackson's truck and a silver sedan she didn't recognize. She pushed through the side door with her cleaning cart, the wheels squeaking in the pre-dawn silence. Jackson was already there, sitting at his desk in the office with a cup of coffee that looked like it had gone cold hours ago. His eyes were bloodshot, his face haggard. He looked like he hadn't slept. You're early, he said. So are you. Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Vincent, about who might be helping him. Jackson rubbed his face with both hands. You know what the worst part is, not knowing who to trust. I've worked with these guys for years. Some of them I'd take a bullet for, and one of them sold me out. Leia set down her cart. The silver sedan outside. Who does that belong to? Jackson's head snapped up. What silver sedan? Parked 3 spots down from your truck. Nevada plates, rental sticker on the bumper. Jackson was out of his chair and moving before she finished speaking. He grabbed a tire iron from the tool rack as he passed, holding it low against his leg. Leia followed her hand instinctively, going to the knife in her pocket. They pushed through the front door into the cool morning air. The silver sedan sat exactly where Leia had said, its windows tinted dark enough that you couldn't see inside. They back, Jackson ordered. He approached the car slowly, tire iron ready. When he got within 10 feet, the driver's door opened. A woman stepped out, early 40s, blonde hair pulled into a severe ponytail, wearing jeans and a leather jacket that had seen better days. Her face was all sharp angles and hard lines, the kind of face that had seen too much and smiled too little. "Hello, Jackson," she said. Jackson stopped cold. The tire iron dropped an inch. "Kate, been a long time." 5 years, Jackson's voice was tight. "Not long enough." The woman Kate smiled without warmth. "Still carrying a grudge, I see." "My brother carried a grudge, right up until Vincent put him in the ground." Leia's breath caught. Nobody had mentioned Jackson having a brother. Nobody had mentioned that Vincent had killed someone. Kate's smile disappeared. "That was an accident. You know it was an accident." "Accident." Jackson's laugh was ugly. "Vincent ran him off of the road doing 90 on Devil's Curve. Mikey's bike went over the guardrail and dropped 300 feet. They needed dental records to identify what was left." "You call that an accident?" Vincent said the brakes failed. "Vincent's a liar." Jackson's roar echoed off the buildings. A flock of pigeons exploded from a nearby roof. "He murdered my baby brother because Mikey caught him skimming club funds. And you stood by him, testified at the club meeting that it was mechanical failure. You lied for him, Kate." Kate flinched but held her ground. "I told the truth as I understood it." "You told the truth as Vincent fed it to you. You were so in love with that psychopath you couldn't see what he really was." "Was," Kate repeated, past tense. "I'm not with Vincent anymore, Jackson. Haven't been for 3 years. And I'm supposed to believe that you show up here out of nowhere the day after someone sabotages my bike. That's one hell of a coincidence." "It's not a coincidence. I'm here because of the sabotage." Kate glanced at Leia. "Who's the girl?" "None of your business. If she's involved in this, it's very much my business." Jackson stepped between Kate and Leia, blocking her view. "Last time. Why are you here?" Kate sighed and suddenly she looked tired, bone-deep tired. "Because Vincent's planning something big, something that goes way beyond a sabotaged motorcycle. And if I don't stop him, people are going to die. A lot of people." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "Keep talking," Jackson said. "Not here, too exposed." Kate glanced around the empty parking lot like she expected snipers. "Inside. And the girl comes too. If she's the one who fixed your bike, she needs to hear this." Jackson hesitated, then jerked his head toward the garage. "Fine, but you try anything, and I'll finish what the club should have done 5 years ago." They filed back inside. Kate walked with the careful movements of someone expecting an attack from any direction. Combat training, Leia realized. This woman knew how to fight. In the office, Jackson shut the door and pulled the blinds. Kate remained standing, her back to the wall, where she could watch both the door and the window. "Talk," Jackson said. Kate pulled a folded photograph from her jacket and tossed it on the desk. Jackson picked it up, studied it, and his face went pale. "Jesus Christ." "What is it?" Leia asked. Jackson showed her the photo. It showed the interior of what looked like a warehouse: concrete floors, metal shelving, and row upon row of wooden crates marked with shipping labels. But it was what was visible in the open crates that made Leia's stomach drop. Guns. Dozens of them. Assault rifles, handguns, something that looked like a rocket launcher. "Vincent's been running weapons for the past 3 years, Kate said. Started small handguns to gang stolen pieces from military bases. But he's escalated. Those rifles fully automatic. Illegal as hell. And that launcher surface-to-air missile system. Russian surplus black market purchase." "Where did he get the money for this?" Jackson demanded. "Diablo Customs. His garage, it's a front. He sells counterfeit motorcycle parts, cheap Chinese knockoffs with fake brand labels. Sells them at premium prices to unsuspecting customers. Makes a fortune. Uses that fortune to buy weapons. Then sells the weapons to anyone with cash. Drug cartels, militia groups, terror cells. He doesn't care who, as long as they pay." Leia felt sick. How many people have died because of guns he sold? Kate's expression was bleak. "I stopped counting at 50. That was 6 months ago." "And you're just now deciding to do something about it." Jackson's voice was ice. "You've known for 3 years and you're just now growing a conscience." "I didn't know the full extent until recently," Kate shot back. "Vincent kept me in the dark, told me he was just running a garage making an honest living. I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because I'm an idiot." "What changed?" "I found the warehouse. 2 weeks ago, I was looking for parts for a customer's bike, and I found keys to a storage unit in Vincent's desk. Got curious. Followed the address. Kate's hands clenched into fists. When I saw what was in there, I knew I had to get out. So I waited until Vincent was gone, packed a bag, and ran. He knows you left. Oh, he knows. He's been hunting me ever since. That's why I'm here. You're the only person with enough pull to take him down. The club listens to you, Jackson. Always has. You get them on board, we can end this. Jackson's laugh was bitter. The club, half of them think Vincent got a raw deal. They remember the old days when he was a good brother. They don't know about the weapons, about the bodies. And without proof. I have proof. Kate pulled a USB drive from her pocket. Ledgers, transaction records, photos, everything you need to bury him. But we have to move fast. Vincent knows I have this. He's going to come looking for it. And when he does, he's going to come through you to get to me. Then let him come, Jackson said coldly. I've been waiting 5 years for a chance to settle accounts. You can't take him alone. Vincent's not the man you remember. Prison changed him, made him harder, meaner. And he's not working alone anymore. He's got a crew, ex-military types, mercenaries, men who kill for money and don't lose sleep over it. Leia spoke up for the first time. How many men? Kate turned to her, seeming to really see her for the first time. At least 8, maybe more. Why? Because if Vincent's planning to come here, we need to know what we're up against. 8 armed men against what Jackson and a garage full of mechanics. The mechanics don't need to be involved, Jackson said quickly. This is my fight. It became their fight when Vincent recruited one of them, Leia countered. Someone in this garage is feeding him information. Probably has been for months. You shut that person down, you cut off Vincent's intelligence. Kate nodded slowly. The girl's smart. Who is she? Leia Turner, Jackson said. She's the one who figured out the sabotage. Ray Turner's daughter. Kate's eyebrows rose. I heard he died. Sorry for your pause. Your father was a legend. Leia didn't respond. Condolences from strangers always felt hollow. Kate turned back to Jackson. She's right. If Vincent has someone on the inside, we need to know who. Any ideas? None, Jackson admitted. I've been going over it in my head all night. Every mechanic in this garage has been loyal. I'd trust any of them with my life. One of them doesn't deserve that trust. The office door opened without warning. Tommy walked in, stopping short when he saw Kate. What the hell is she doing here? Tommy's voice was sharp with hostility. Tommy, Jackson started. No, Tommy pointed at Kate. She testified for Vincent. She helped him walk after he killed Mikey. She's not welcome here. I know how it looks, Kate said quietly, but I'm trying to make things right. 5 years too late. Better late than never. Tell that to Mikey's ghost. Tommy turned to Jackson. Boss, you can't seriously be considering trusting her. I don't trust her, Jackson said, but she's got information we need. What information? Jackson handed him the photograph. Tommy's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, shock, horror, rage. Where is this? Tommy demanded. Storage unit outside of town, Kate said. Unit 247 at Secure Store on Highway 12. We need to call the cops, ATF, FBI, someone, and tell them what, Kate challenged, that we broke into a storage unit and found illegal weapons. They'll arrest us for breaking and entering. Vincent will lawyer up and the weapons will disappear before the cops get a warrant. So what's your plan? We do nothing. We do something, Jackson said, but we do it smart. We find out who's helping Vincent, we cut off his information flow, and then we hit him where it hurts. His business, his reputation, his money. How? Tommy asked. We expose him, Leia said. All eyes turned to her. He's selling counterfeit parts, right? That's how he's funding the weapons. So we prove the parts are fake, we document it, we gather evidence, and then we blast it across every motorcycle forum, every social media platform, every place bikers gather. We destroy his business. No business means no money. No money means no weapons. Kate smiled. I like her. It's not that simple, Tommy objected. Proving parts are counterfeit takes time. Testing, certification. Vincent will see us coming. Not if we use parts people have already bought, Leia said. There have to be failures. Parts that broke too soon, that didn't fit right, that caused accidents. We find those people, we test their parts, we prove they're fake, and we tie them all back to Diablo Customs. Jackson nodded slowly. That could work. Kate, you have access to Vincent's customer database. It's on the USB drive, 3 years of sales records. Then we start there. We contact every customer who bought critical parts, brake components, steering assemblies, wheel bearings. We ask if they have had problems. If they have, we offer free inspections. We document everything. That's going to take weeks, Tommy said. Maybe months. Then we work fast. Jackson looked at each of them in turn. But first we find the rat. Because if we start this investigation and Vincent gets wind of it, he'll disappear. And all those weapons disappear with him. The office fell silent. Finding a traitor among trusted friends was a special kind of hell. I'll start watching, Leia said. Like we discussed. I see anything suspicious, I report it. I'll go through the USB drive, Kate offered. See if there's anything in the records that might point to the inside man. Maybe Vincent paid someone, left a money trail. And I'll reach out to customers, Jackson said. Quietly, carefully, start building a case. What about me? Tommy asked. You keep the garage running. Act like nothing's wrong. Business as usual. We can't let on that anything's changed. Tommy didn't look happy, but he nodded. All right, but Jackson, if this goes sideways, if Vincent comes at us, then we fight, Jackson said simply. We fight, and we don't stop fighting until he's in the ground or behind bars. Those are the only two options. The door burst open again. Diego stood there out of breath, his face flushed. Boss, he gasped. We got a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where Vincent just pulled into the parking lot with 6 guys, and they're all carrying. The room exploded into motion. Jackson grabbed a shotgun from under his desk. Kate pulled a pistol from an ankle holster Leia hadn't noticed. Tommy ran for the tool room where more weapons were likely stored. Leia stood frozen, her hand on the knife in her pocket. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. They were supposed to have time to investigate, to plan, to prepare. Leia, get into the back, Jackson ordered. Find somewhere to hide and don't come out there until this is over. I'm not hiding. You don't know how to fight. Then I'll learn fast. Jackson opened his mouth to argue, but the sound of boots on concrete cut him off. Heavy footsteps. Multiple people. Getting closer. The office door was still open. Through it, Leia could see shadows moving in the garage. 8, 9, maybe 10 men fanning out among the work bays. And in the center, walking with the casual confidence of a man who owned the place, was Vincent Cross. He was tall, like Leia remembered, 6'3" or 6'4", with a shaved head that gleamed under the fluorescent lights. The Ouroboros tattoo on his forearm was visible below his rolled-up sleeve, the snake scales rendered in intricate detail. He wore black jeans, motorcycle boots, and a leather vest with no patches. An outcast with nothing left to lose. Jackson, Vincent's voice boomed through the garage. I know you're here, truck's in the lot. Come on out, let's talk like civilized people. Civilized, Jackson muttered. That's rich coming from a murderer. He stepped out of the office, shotgun held low but ready. Kate moved to cover his left flank. Tommy emerged from the tool room with a baseball bat, not much against guns, but better than nothing. Leia stayed in the doorway watching, learning. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought it might crack a rib. Vincent smiled when he saw Jackson. There he is, the man himself. Still looking good, brother. Prison wasn't so kind to me. You're not my brother, Jackson said flatly. My brothers don't murder family. Mikey's death was an accident. How many times do I have to say it? You can say it until the sun burns out. Won't make it true. Vincent's smile faded. I didn't come here to rehash the past, Jackson. I came for something that belongs to me. Nothing here belongs to you. Kate does. Vincent's eyes shifted to the woman standing beside Jackson. Hey, baby, miss me? Like a tumor, Kate said coldly. That hurts after everything we meant to each other. We never meant anything to each other. I was just convenient. Someone to cook your meals and warm your bed while you built your little empire of blood and steel. Vincent's expression darkened. You took something from me, Kate, something important. I want it back. No idea what you're talking about. The USB drive, my records, you stole them. Prove it. I don't need to prove it. I just need to get them back. So here's how this is going to go. You give me the drive, I walk away, and nobody gets hurt. Simple. And if we refuse, Jackson asked. Vincent gestured to the men behind him. They were all armed handguns, visible in shoulder holsters or waistbands. Then things get complicated, messy. People die, and honestly, Jackson, I'd rather not kill you, for old time's sake. But I will if you make me. You've killed before. What's a few more bodies? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Vincent's casual admission sent chills down Leia's spine. But I prefer not to. Bad for business. Attracts attention. Cops start asking questions. It's a whole thing. Then walk away, Jackson said. Leave now and we'll pretend this never happened. Vincent laughed. You know I can't do that. I need those records, Jackson. They're my insurance policy. Without them, certain people, dangerous people, might start thinking I'm a liability. Can't have that. Sounds like a personal problem. It becomes your problem when I burn this garage to the ground with everyone inside. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Vincent wasn't bluffing. Leia could see it in his eyes, the flat, empty gaze of someone who'd crossed lines most people didn't even know existed. You'd kill innocent people over a USB drive. Kate's voice trembled with suppressed rage. I'd kill innocent people over a parking spot if I was having a bad day, Vincent said. So yeah, over something actually important, in a heartbeat. One of Vincent's men, a thick-necked guy with a spiderweb tattoo on his neck, shifted his weight impatiently. Boss, we doing this or talking it to death? Patience, Bruno. Jackson's a smart man. He's going to make the smart choice. Vincent's eyes locked on Jackson. Right. Jackson's finger moved to the shotgun's trigger. Wrong. Everything happened at once. Vincent dove sideways as Jackson raised the shotgun. Kate fired twice, bullets sparking off a metal workbench. Tommy charged forward with his baseball bat raised high. Bruno and the other men drew their weapons, and suddenly the garage was a war zone. Gunfire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. Leia dropped to the floor as bullets punched through the office drywall above her head. She crawled backwards, scrambling for cover. Jackson fired the shotgun, the blast thunderous. One of Vincent's men screamed and went down. Bruno returned fire, and Jackson threw himself behind an engine block on a stand. Kate was moving, firing, moving again, combat-trained reflexes, keeping her alive, as bullets chewed up the space where she'd been standing. She dropped two more of Vincent's men with precision shots to center mass. Tommy swung his bat like he was going for the fences, catching one of the shooters in the temple. The man collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. But Bruno was on Tommy in a second, and they went down in a tangle of fists in fury. Leia's mind raced. She wasn't a fighter, didn't know how to shoot, couldn't help in a direct confrontation. But there had to be something. Her eyes fell on the fire alarm on the wall. She lunged for it, yanked down the lever. Sirens erupted, ear-splitting and immediate. Sprinklers activated throughout the garage, water cascading down in sheets. The gunfire stuttered, confusion rippling through Vincent's men. They were getting soaked, their visibility dropping as water streamed into their eyes. Fall back, Vincent shouted. Everyone out! His men retreated toward the entrance, firing covering shots as they went. Bruno broke away from Tommy, blood streaming from his nose, and stumbled after them. Vincent was the last to leave. He paused at the door, water pouring over him, and locked eyes with Jackson across the garage. This isn't over, Vincent said. I'm counting on it, Jackson replied. Then Vincent was gone, and the only sounds were the sirens, the sprinklers, and someone groaning in pain. Leia stood on shaking legs. 3 of Vincent's men were down, 1 from Jackson's shotgun blast, 2 from Kate's pistol. Tommy was up, wiping blood from a split lip. Kate was checking her ammunition. Jackson lowered his shotgun slowly. He looked at Leia with something like respect. Smart thinking, he said. Fire alarm. Seemed better than getting shot, Leia said. Her voice only shook a little. Sirens are real ones. This time, police and fire department were approaching in the distance. We need a story, Tommy said urgently. What do we tell the cops? As much of the truth as we can, Kate said. Vincent and his men came looking for me, wanted revenge for leaving. They attacked, we defended ourselves. What about the USB drive? They don't need to know about that, not yet. Kate ejected her pistol's magazine, checked the remaining rounds. We give the cops enough to arrest Vincent for assault with intent, but we keep the weapons trafficking evidence close until we know who we can trust. You think the cops might be compromised? Leia asked. Vincent's been operating for 3 years without getting caught, Kate said grimly. Either he's incredibly lucky or someone in law enforcement is looking the other way. Until we know which, we keep our cards close. The sirens were getting louder. Leia could see flashing lights through the garage windows. Everyone get your stories straight, Jackson ordered. We were working, Vincent showed up with his crew, they attacked, we defended. That's it. Nothing about sabotage, nothing about weapons, nothing about investigations, clear. Everyone nodded, the police were at the door, and Leia knew with absolute certainty that things were about to get a whole lot more complicated. Detective Sarah Chen stood in the middle of the soaked garage, her notepad getting progressively damper as water dripped from the ceiling. She was mid-40s, 5'6", with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a mouth that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. So let me get this straight, she said, flipping back through her notes. Vincent Cross, known felon, suspected arms dealer, person of interest in at least 3 homicides, just walked into your garage with 6 armed men, started shooting, and then left when the fire alarm went off. That's what happened, Jackson said. And why did he come here in the first place? Jackson hesitated. Kate stepped forward before he could answer. He came for me, Kate said. Vincent's my ex. I left him 2 weeks ago. He's been stalking me ever since. I came to Jackson for help because he's the only person I knew who could stand up to Vincent. Chen's eyes narrowed. Kate Morales. I know that name. You testified at Vincent's club hearing 5 years ago. Said the crash that killed Michael Donovan was mechanical failure, not intentional. I was wrong, Kate said flatly. I know that now. 5 years is a long time to have an epiphany. Better late than never, detective. Chen turned to Jackson. And you just let your brother's character witness walk into your garage and ask for help after she helped his killer go free. People change, Jackson said, and she's not the enemy here. Vincent is. 3 of Vincent's men are in ambulances headed to the hospital. 1 might not make it. That's attempted murder charges for everyone involved in this shootout. Self-defense, Tommy interjected. They came at us with guns. We protected ourselves. With what I see, 1 shotgun, 1 pistol registered to Miss Morales, and a baseball bat. Not exactly an arsenal. Chen's gaze swept the garage. Where are the security cameras? Don't have any, Jackson said. Garage this size, bikes worth hundreds of thousands, and no security cameras. That seems negligent. Budget's been tight. Chen didn't believe him. Leia could see it in the way her mouth tightened, the way her fingers drummed against her notepad. But without evidence to the contrary, there wasn't much the detective could do. I'm going to need statements from everyone who was here, Chen said. Individual statements, separately. And if I find out anyone's lying to me, I will personally ensure you spend the next decade in a cell, clear. They spent the next 3 hours giving statements. Leia sat in the office with Chen recounting what she'd seen, the arrival of Vincent's men, the shooting, pulling the fire alarm. She stuck to the agreed-upon story, leaving out everything about the sabotage, the USB drive, the weapons trafficking. Chen asked the same questions 3 different ways, trying to catch inconsistencies. Leia's answers never changed because they were mostly truth. The best lies were always wrapped around a core of reality. Finally, Chen closed her notepad. You're free to go, but don't leave town. I'll have follow-up questions. I'm homeless, Leia said. I don't exactly have anywhere to go. Chen's expression softened fractionally. There's a shelter on 5th Street, clean beds, hot meals. Better than sleeping rough. I'll think about it. Do more than think. Girl like you shouldn't be on the streets. It's dangerous. Everything's dangerous, detective. At least on the streets, I know who my enemies are. Chen studied her for a long moment. You're Ray Turner's daughter, aren't you? I worked a case with your father once. Good man. He'd be proud of what you did today, pulling that alarm. Quick thinking saved lives. The words hit Leia harder than she expected. She hadn't heard anyone speak well of her father in years. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This situation is a powder keg. Vincent's not going to stop just because his first attempt failed. He'll come back harder, meaner, and he won't care about collateral damage. Chen handed Leia a business card. You see him, you hear anything about him, you call me immediately. Day or night. Leia pocketed the card. Yes, ma'am. After Chen left the garage, felt like a crime scene, which technically it was. Blood on the floor, bullet holes in the walls, water still dripping from disabled sprinklers. The mechanics who'd arrived for their shifts stood in small clusters, speaking in hushed voices, shooting nervous glances at the damage. Marcus approached Jackson cautiously. "Boss, what do we do? We can't work like this. Half the equipment's waterlogged, the computers are fried, and customers are going to hear about the shooting. They're not going to want to bring their bikes here." "We clean up," Jackson said. "We dry out, we repair the damage, and we open tomorrow like nothing happened." "Tomorrow, Jackson, that's impossible." "Nothing's impossible. We work through the night if we have to. I'm not giving Vincent the satisfaction of shutting us down." Diego spoke up from across the garage. "What if he comes back? What if next time he brings more guys, bigger guns? Then we'll deal with it. How we barely survived this time, and we had Kate here with her pistol. She takes off, we're sitting ducks." All eyes turned to Kate. She leaned against a workbench, looking exhausted and 10 years older than when she'd arrived. "I'm not leaving," Kate said. "Not until Vincent's behind bars or dead, whichever comes first." "That could take months," Marcus protested. "Then I'll be here for months." "And where exactly are you planning to stay?" Tommy asked. "Vincent knows you're here now. He'll be watching Jackson's place, watching the garage. Anywhere you go, he'll find you." Kate's face showed her frustration. "I'll figure something out." "She stays with me," Leia said. Everyone turned to look at her. "I've got a place. Not much, but it's off the grid. Vincent won't think to look there." "You said you're homeless," Chen had said. Leia had let the detective think that, but the truth was more complicated. She had a place in an abandoned machine shop on the east side that she'd been squatting in for 6 months. No electricity, no running water, but it had a roof and walls, and it was hers. "I've got a place," Leia repeated. "It's not fancy, but it's safe." Kate studied her with new interest. "Why would you do this? You don't know me." "No, but Jackson trusts you enough to not shoot you on sight. That's good enough for me." "The girl's got a point," Tommy said, "and it solves our immediate problem. Kate stays hidden. Vincent can't find her. We buy ourselves time to put together the evidence." Jackson nodded slowly. "All right. Kate, you go with Leia. Keep your head down. No phone calls, no social media, nothing that Vincent could track. As far as the world knows, you disappeared." "What about the USB drive?" Kate pulled it from her pocket. "We need to go through it, start contacting customers." "I'll handle that," Jackson said, taking the drive. "You focus on staying alive." The mechanics dispersed to begin cleanup. Jackson pulled Leia aside, his voice low. "You sure about this, taking Kate in, if Vincent finds out?" "He won't," Leia interrupted. "Nobody knows about my place. I've been careful." "Still, you'd be putting yourself in danger." "I'm already in danger, we all are. At least this way, we're in it together." Jackson's expression was unreadable. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Haven't figured out which yet." "Can it be both?" Despite everything, Jackson laughed. "Yeah, I suppose it can." Leia and Kate left through the back door after sunset when the streets were dark enough to hide their movements. Leia led Kate through a maze of alleys and side streets, doubling back twice to ensure they weren't followed. The machine shop was a squat brick building wedged between a closed-down textile factory and a vacant lot full of rusted shopping carts. The front door was chained and padlocked, but Leia had cut through the chain months ago and used her own lock as a replacement. She opened it now, and they slipped inside. Kate pulled out her phone for light. The machine shop's interior was exactly what you'd expect. Cement floor exposed rafters, hulking pieces of industrial equipment covered in dust and cobwebs. In the back corner, Leia had created something resembling a living space, a sleeping bag, a battery-powered lantern, a plastic crate filled with canned goods and bottled water. "Home sweet home," Leia said without inflection. Kate turned in a slow circle, taking it all in. "How long have you been living here?" 6 months, maybe 7. Time kind of blurs when every day is the same. And before this, different places, under bridges, in abandoned cars, bus stations when it got really cold. You learn to adapt." Kate sat down on an overturned crate, suddenly looking defeated. "I'm sorry, you shouldn't have to live like this. Nobody should." "But people do. Thousands of us. We're invisible until someone needs something from us, and then we disappear again." Leia pulled out a second sleeping bag from behind a rusted lathe. "You can use this. It's clean. Well, mostly clean." "Thank you." Kate accepted the sleeping bag, then hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you help Jackson? You could have just kept your head down, kept cleaning floors, stayed invisible like you said. Why get involved? Leia was quiet for a moment, considering the question. Because I'm tired of being invisible, tired of not mattering. When I fixed that bike, when Jackson looked at me and actually saw me, not the homeless girl, not the janitor, but me, it felt like I was human again, like I had value. I'm not giving that up. Not for Vincent, not for anyone. Kate nodded slowly. I understand that, the need to matter. I felt that way with Vincent at the beginning. He made me feel important, special, like I was part of something bigger than myself. By the time I realized what that something was, I was in too deep to leave. But you did leave. Eventually, took me 3 years and a warehouse full of weapons to wake up. Some people would say that's 3 years too late. Some people aren't in a position to judge. Leia sat down across from Kate. You're here now. You're trying to make it right. That counts for something. Does it? Kate's voice was bitter. I can give you a list of names, people who bought Vincent's guns. People who died because of guns he sold. Children Jackson. There was a school shooting in Arizona last year. The shooter used a rifle Vincent provided. 14 kids dead. 14 families destroyed. And I saw the transaction records. I said nothing. The weight of that confession hung between them like a physical presence. Why Leia asked. Why didn't you say something? Because I was scared. Vincent would have killed me. I know he would have. And I told myself that my life was worth more than the lives of strangers. That survival justified silence. Kate's hands were shaking. I was wrong. I was so goddamn wrong. And now I've got to live with that for the rest of my life. Leia didn't have words of comfort. What could you say to someone carrying that kind of guilt? So she said nothing, just sat with Kate in the silence and let her feel what she needed to feel. After a while, Kate wiped her eyes and straightened up. We should get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. They settled into their sleeping bags. The machine shop was cold spring nights in this part of the country, still carried winter's chill, but the sleeping bags provided enough warmth to make it bearable. Leia was drifting off when Kate spoke again. Leia, yeah. Thank you for trusting me, for giving me a chance to do the right thing. You're welcome. And Leia, yeah. Yeah. If something happens to me, if Vincent finds me, if things go bad, the USB drive isn't the only evidence. I've got a safety deposit box at First National Bank. Keys taped under the sink in the women's bathroom at Iron and Chrome. Box 237. Everything's in there. Backups of the records, photos, witness statements. Everything you'd need to take Vincent down. Nothing's going to happen to you. Just in case. Promise me you'll remember. Box 237. I'll remember. Kate was asleep within minutes, exhausted from the day's violence. But Leia lay awake staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Box 237, First National Bank. Everything to take Vincent down. She memorized it, repeated it silently until it was burned into her brain. Because Kate was right, there was a very real chance that Vincent would find them, would finish what he'd started. And if that happened, someone needed to complete what Kate had begun. Leia must have dozed off eventually because she woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. The screen showed 3:30 in the morning. A text from Jackson. Need you at the garage. Now, it's urgent. She sat up, instantly alert. Kate was still asleep, her breathing deep and even. Leia grabbed her phone and slipped outside, calling Jackson back. He answered on the first ring. Leia, what's wrong? Tommy's gone. What do you mean gone? I mean he left. Cleared out his locker, took his tools, and disappeared. Left a note saying he couldn't do us anymore, that he was out. Leia's stomach dropped. You think he's the one who's been helping Vincent? I don't know, maybe. Or maybe he's just scared. But the timing's suspicious as hell. Jackson's voice was tight with stress. There's more. Someone broke into my office. Went through my desk. The USB drive's missing. What? It's gone. And the only people who knew about it were the ones in that office during the shooting. Tommy, you, me, Kate, Diego, Marcus. It wasn't me. I know. And it sure as hell wasn't me. Kate's with you, so that leaves Tommy, Diego, and Marcus. Tommy ran. That makes him look guilty. Or it makes him look scared. Diego and Marcus are still here, which makes them look innocent. But one of them could have taken the drive and planted it somewhere for Vincent to pick up later. Leia's mind was racing. Can you check the security footage? What security footage? I told Chen we don't have cameras. You lied to a cop. Of course I lied. The cameras are hidden, wireless, motion activated. They've been recording everything for the past 2 years. I just didn't want Chen or anyone else knowing they existed. So check the footage. See who went into your office. I am, right now. That's why I called. I need you to see this. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Make it 15. Leia ended the call and went back inside. Kate was awake, sitting up in her sleeping bag, her pistol in her hand. What's wrong? Kate asked. Tommy's gone. The USB drive's stolen. Jackson needs me at the garage. Kate was on her feet instantly. I'm coming with you. No, if this is a trap, if Vincent somehow got to Tommy, and this is a setup, we can't both walk into it. You stay here. Stay hidden. If I'm not back by dawn, you run. You hear me? You take that key from the bathroom. Get the evidence from the safety deposit box and you run as far and fast as you can. Kate looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Be careful. Always am. Leia made it to the garage in 12 minutes, running most of the way. The front door was locked, but Jackson let her in through the side entrance. The garage was dark except for the lights in the office, which glowed like a beacon. Inside the office, Jackson had his laptop open, security footage playing on the screen. Diego and Marcus stood behind him, watching over his shoulder. Show her, Jackson said without preamble. The footage was from the angle covering Jackson's desk. Timestamp showed 11:47 p.m., about 4 hours after the police had left. The office was empty, lights off. Then the door opened and a figure slipped inside. Tommy. He moved quickly, going straight to Jackson's desk. He opened the drawers, systematically searching. On the third drawer, he found what he was looking for. He pulled out the USB drive, held it up to examine it in the dim light filtering through the windows, then pocketed it. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out his phone and made a call. No audio on the security footage, but his lips moved. 30 seconds of conversation, maybe less. Then he hung up, left the office, and disappeared from frame. Son of a bitch, Diego breathed. Tommy's the rat. We don't know that for sure, Marcus protested. Maybe he took the drive to keep it safe. Maybe he thought someone else would steal it. By making a phone call right after, Jackson's voice was ice. Who was he calling? Marcus, who? I don't know. Could be anyone. Could be Vincent. Marcus had no response to that. Jackson rewound the footage, played it again. Look at how he moves, confident, direct. He knew exactly where to look. I never told anyone where I put that drive. Hell, I barely remembered myself. But Tommy went right to it. How long has he been working for Vincent? Leia asked. No idea. Could be months. Could be years. Jackson's hands clenched into fists. I trusted him. 23 years we worked together. 23 years and he was selling me out the whole time. We don't know. It was the whole time, Diego offered weakly. Does it matter? A week, a month, a year. Betrayal's betrayal. Jackson stood up abruptly, his chair scraping across the floor. We need to find him. Now, before he hands that drive over to Vincent. How? Marcus asked. He could be anywhere. He's got family in the area. Brother lives over on Walnut Street. Sister's got a place near the university. We start there. And if he's not there, then we keep looking until we find him. Leia stepped forward. Wait, before we go charging off, think about this. Tommy took the drive 4 hours ago. If he was going to give it to Vincent, he'd have done it by now. The fact that he hasn't suggests something else is going on. Like what? Jackson demanded. Like maybe he's got cold feet. Maybe he took the drive to protect it from whoever he thinks is the real traitor. That's a stretch, Diego said. Is it? Think about it. Tommy's worked here for 23 years. He's loyal. Everyone says so. So why would he suddenly turn on Jackson now? What changed? Marcus snapped his fingers. The shooting. Tommy's never been in a gunfight before. None of us have. Maybe it scared him, made him realize how serious this was getting. Or made him realize he was in over his head, Leia added. If Tommy's been passing information to Vincent, he probably thought it was small stuff. Maintenance schedules, customer lists, nothing dangerous. Then Vincent shows up with an army and starts shooting and Tommy realizes he's helped a monster. Jackson considered this. So you're saying Tommy might actually be trying to do the right thing? I'm saying it's possible. And if it is, we need to reach him before Vincent does. Because if Vincent thinks Tommy's turning on him, Tommy's a dead man. Jackson made a decision. All right, Diego, you check Tommy's brother's place. Marcus, you take the sister. I'll check his usual haunts, bars, pool halls, places he likes to hang out. Leia, you stay here. If Tommy comes back, you call me immediately. Why would he come back here? Because this is home. When people are scared and don't know where else to go, they go home. The men filed out, leaving Leia alone in the garage. She sat in Jackson's office chair. The security footage still paused on the screen, showing Tommy with the USB drive in his hand. She didn't believe Tommy was innocent. The phone call gave him away. If he'd taken the drive to protect it, why call someone immediately after? No, Tommy was guilty. The only question was whether he could be redeemed. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Is this Leia? A man's voice rough with stress. Who's asking? It's Tommy. Don't hang up. Please, I need your help. Leia's heart rate spiked. Where are you? Doesn't matter. I saw the footage. I know Jackson knows what I did. I'm not coming back to the garage. Then why are you calling me? Because you're the only one who might believe me. The only one who might understand. Tommy's voice cracked. I didn't know, Leia. I swear to God, I didn't know what Vincent was really doing. What did you think you were doing, Tommy? When you passed him information, when you let him into the garage after hours, what exactly did you think was happening? I thought... Tommy stopped started again. Vincent told me he just wanted to keep tabs on Jackson. Said Jackson had something that belonged to him, and he needed to know when Jackson was vulnerable enough to approach. I thought it was about money, some debt from the old days. I didn't know about the weapons, didn't know about the sabotage. I swear. You expect me to believe that you helped him cut the ground wire on Jackson's bike. I didn't. I let Vincent into the garage, yes, but I didn't touch the bike. I didn't know what he was planning until it was too late. Why should I believe you? Because I've got the USB drive and I'm willing to hand it over, not to Vincent, to you, to Jackson, to anyone who will use it to take Vincent down. Tommy's desperation was palpable through the phone. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I'm trying to fix it. You have to believe me. Leia's mind raced. This could be a trap. Tommy could be working with Vincent, using the drive as bait to lure her into an ambush. But something in his voice rang true, the fear, the regret, the desperate need to be believed. Where are you? She asked again. Old Henderson Mill, South Side. Come alone. If I see anyone else, I'm gone. Jackson needs to know. No, just you. You come, I give you the drive, and then I disappear. I'm done with this town, done with all of it. I just want to make this one thing right before I go. Tommy. 1 hour. If you're not here by then, I'm dumping the drive in the river and leaving the state. Your choice. The line went dead. Leia sat frozen, the phone in her hand, her mind screaming at her that this was a terrible idea. Every instinct told her to call Jackson, to bring backup, to not walk into what was almost certainly a trap. But what if it wasn't? What if Tommy was telling the truth? What if this was their one chance to get the drive back before Vincent got his hands on it? She looked at the time, 4:15. I am, 1 hour would make it 5:15. Dawn. She made a decision. She grabbed Jackson's shotgun from under the desk. He'd left it there after the shooting, checked that it was loaded, and headed for the door. Henderson Mill was a 40-minute walk. She'd have to run to make it in time. She didn't call Jackson, didn't tell anyone where she was going. Later, she'd recognize this as the moment everything changed. The moment she stopped being a victim of circumstance and became an active participant in her own fate. But right now, all she knew was that Tommy had the drive and she had to get it back, whatever the cost. The Henderson Mill squatted in the industrial wasteland like a rotting tooth, 5 stories of crumbling brick and broken windows, surrounded by chain-link fence with gaps big enough to drive a truck through. Leia approached from the east, the shotgun heavy in her hands, her breath forming clouds in the pre-dawn cold. The main entrance hung open, the door torn off its hinges years ago. Leia stepped inside and the smell hit her immediately, mold, rust, decades of decay. Her footsteps echoed on concrete floors littered with debris. Tommy? Her voice bounced off empty walls. No answer. She moved deeper into the mill, the shotgun raised safety off. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every sound made her flinch. Tommy, I'm here. Alone like you said. A noise from above, footsteps on metal stairs. Leia spun toward the sound, her finger tightening on the trigger. Tommy appeared on the second-floor landing, his hands raised in surrender. He looked terrible, eyes sunken, face pale, shirt stained with sweat. In his right hand, he held the USB drive. Don't shoot, he said quickly. I'm not armed. Come down here. Slowly. Tommy descended the stairs one careful step at a time, never taking his eyes off the shotgun. When he reached the ground floor, he stopped 20 feet away. You came, he said, relief flooding his voice. I wasn't sure you would. I'm here for the drive, that's all. I know. Tommy held it up. It's right here. Everything Kate stole from Vincent. Transaction records, customer lists, photos of the weapons. Everything you need to destroy him. Then give it to me. I will. But first you need to understand, I didn't know what Vincent was planning. You have to believe that. I don't have to believe anything. I just need the drive. Leia, please. Tommy's voice broke. I've worked at that garage for 23 years. Jackson's like a brother to me. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. You let Vincent into the garage. You helped him sabotage Jackson's bike. I let him in, yes, but I didn't help with the bike. I swear on my mother's grave. Vincent said he just needed to check something and said it would take 5 minutes. I believed him because I'm a goddamn fool. Why? Leia demanded. Why did you help him at all? Tommy's shoulders sagged. Money. It's always money, isn't it? My wife, ex-wife, now she got sick 3 years ago. Cancer. The medical bills piled up. Insurance didn't cover half of it. We lost the house, lost everything. Vincent found out, somehow approached me, offered to help, said he'd pay the bills if I did him a few favors. What kind of favors? Information at first, when Jackson would be out of town. Which bikes were worth stealing, small stuff. Then he wanted access to the garage. Said he needed to check on some parts he'd ordered through us, make sure the quality was good. I let him in one night after everyone left. Tommy's face twisted with anguish. He must have sabotaged the bike then. And I helped him do it. Your wife, did the money save her? Tommy shook his head. She died anyway, 6 months after Vincent started paying. So I did all this, betrayed Jackson, helped a monster, and it didn't even matter. She died, and I'm left with blood on my hands. Leia felt a flicker of sympathy, quickly suppressed. The phone call, after you took the drive, who did you call? A cop. Detective I know from the old neighborhood. Told him everything about Vincent, about the weapons, about what I'd done. He said he'd look into it. You expect me to believe you called the police? Call him yourself, Detective Mike Brennan. Here. Tommy pulled out his phone, tossed it to Leia. She caught it one-handed, keeping the shotgun trained on him. She checked the call log. Sure enough, the last outgoing call was to a number saved as Brennan PD. Timestamp matched the security footage. I'm done running, Tommy said. I'm done being Vincent's puppet. I took the drive because I knew it was the evidence you needed. I was going to leave it here for you, disappear, let you take all the credit. But then I thought, no, I need to face this, face Jackson, tell him myself what I did. Jackson will kill you. Maybe, or maybe he'll let me rot in prison. Either way, I deserve it. Tommy stepped forward, holding out the USB drive. Take it. Use it. Stop Vincent before he hurts anyone else. Leia lowered the shotgun, slightly reached for the drive. The gunshot came from behind her, deafeningly loud in the enclosed space. Tommy jerked backward, a red flower blooming on his chest. He looked down at the wound with an expression of surprise, then collapsed. Leia spun around, bringing the shotgun up, but hands grabbed her from the side, wrenching it away. She fought, kicking, clawing, but there were too many of them. 3 men, 4, all moving with military precision. They forced her to the ground, face pressed against cold concrete. Someone grabbed her hair, yanked her head back. Well, well, Vincent's voice smooth as silk. Little Leia Turner, homeless, invisible, nobody important. His boots appeared in her field of vision. He crouched down, bringing his face level with hers. Except you're not nobody, are you? You're the girl who fixed my sabotage. The girl who figured out what 50 mechanics couldn't. That makes you dangerous. Let me go. Leia gasped. Can't do that. You've seen too much, know too much. Vincent stood, looked over at Tommy's body. Poor Tommy. Grew a conscience at the worst possible time. I would have let him walk away if he just kept his mouth shut. But no, he had to try to play hero. You killed him. Bruno killed him, Vincent corrected. I just gave the order. Important distinction. That's how you stay out of prison, delegate the wet work. Bruno stepped into view, the same thick-necked man from the garage shooting. He held a pistol with a suppressor, attached, smoke still curling from the barrel. What about her? Bruno asked, gesturing to Leia. Check her pockets first. She's got something I want. Bruno patted Leia down, roughly found the USB drive in her jacket pocket. He held it up triumphantly. Vincent smiled. There it is. Thank you, Leia. You've just saved me a lot of trouble. I was going to have to tear that garage apart looking for this. Now I don't have to. Kate has copies, Leia said desperately. Everything on that drive is backed up. Killing me won't change anything. Kate's copies are useless without Kate, and she's disappeared quite effectively, hasn't she? Don't worry, I'll find her eventually. I always do. But first I need to send Jackson a message. Something that will make it very clear what happens to people who interfere in my business. Vincent nodded to Bruno. Do it. Bruno raised the pistol, aimed it at Leia's head. The shotgun blast came from the doorway, and Bruno's chest exploded in a spray of red. He dropped without a sound. Vincent's men scattered, drawing weapons, returning fire toward the entrance. Leia scrambled backward, desperate for cover, as bullets chewed through the air where she'd been lying. Jackson burst through the doorway, the shotgun roaring again. Another of Vincent's men went down. Then Marcus was there, firing a hunting rifle with devastating accuracy. Diego right behind him with a pistol that looked too big for his hands, but which he used with surprising effectiveness. Vincent grabbed Leia, dragged her upright, used her as a human shield. He pressed a gun to her temple. Everyone stop shooting or the girl dies. Vincent's voice cut through the chaos. The gunfire ceased. Jackson stepped into the open, his shotgun pointed at Vincent's head. Let her go, Jackson said quietly. You first. Drop the gun. Everyone drops their guns. Not happening. Then we have a stalemate. And in a stalemate, I hold all the cards because I will kill her, Jackson. Without hesitation. Without regret. Is she worth dying for? That's not the question, Jackson said. The question is, are you worth living for? And the answer is no. He pulled the trigger. The shotgun blast went wide intentionally. Vincent flinched, loosened his grip for just a second. It was all the opening Leia needed. She drove her elbow backward into Vincent's solar plexus with every ounce of strength she had. Vincent's breath exploded out in a whoosh, and his gun arm dropped. Leia twisted, grabbed the gun, and they struggled for control. The weapon discharged twice, deafening reports that left Leia's ears ringing. She felt the heat of the barrel against her palm, felt Vincent's strength threatening to overpower her. Then Jackson was there, ripping Vincent away, throwing him against a support pillar with bone-crushing force. Vincent tried to bring the gun around, but Jackson caught his wrist, twisted it backward until something snapped. Vincent screamed. The gun clattered to the floor. The remaining two of Vincent's men literally turned and fled through a side exit, wanting no part of what was about to happen. Vincent clutched his broken wrist, his face twisted in pain and fury. You're making a mistake. You kill me. My people will burn your world to ash. Everything you love. Everyone you care about. Your people are already dead or running, Jackson said coldly. And you're going to pay for what you did to Mikey, for what you tried to do to me, for every life you destroyed with your guns and your lies. Jackson, don't. Leia found her voice. He's not worth it. Call the cops. Let him rot in prison. Prison's too good for him. Maybe, but killing him makes you just like him. Is that what Mikey would have wanted? Jackson's finger tightened on the trigger. For a long moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Jackson lowered the shotgun. You're right. Mikey wouldn't want this. He looked at Vincent with disgust. But I want you to know I could have killed you. I chose not to. That's the difference between us. I'm not a murderer. Neither am I, Vincent spat. I'm a businessman. You're a monster, and monsters belong in cages. Marcus was already on the phone with the police, giving them the address. Diego had retrieved the USB drive from Bruno's pocket, held it up to show Jackson. Got it, Diego said. Everything's here. Sirens in the distance getting closer. Leia walked over to Tommy's body. He'd fallen on his side, his eyes open and empty. She crouched beside him, closed his eyes gently. He tried, she said softly. At the end, he tried to do the right thing. Too little, too late, Jackson said, but there was sadness in his voice. Maybe, but it counts for something. The police arrived in force, Detective Chen leading 6 uniformed officers with weapons drawn. She took in the scene with one sweep of her eyes, 2 bodies, multiple shell casings, Vincent on the ground clutching his broken wrist, Jackson holding a shotgun. Somebody want to explain what the hell happened here, Chen demanded. Jackson set down the shotgun carefully. Self-defense. Vincent and his men ambushed Leia. We came to get her out. His men fired first. Chen looked at Vincent. That true? I want a lawyer, Vincent said. I'll bet you do. Chen nodded to her officers. Cuff him, read him his rights, then call the medics for that wrist. As the officers moved to arrest Vincent, Chen turned to Jackson. You're telling me this is self-defense because it looks an awful lot like a mob hit. Check Bruno's gun, Leia said. He shot Tommy Rodriguez. Tommy called Detective Brennan tonight, told him everything about Vincent's weapons operation. Check Brennan's phone records. It's all there. Chen's expression shifted from skepticism to interest. Mike Brennan. He mentioned something about a tip tonight, said a source had information about an illegal arms dealer, but wouldn't say more until morning. That source was Tommy, Leia said. He was trying to make things right. Vincent killed him for it. Chen pulled out her phone, stepped away to make a call. When she returned, her face was grim. Brennan confirms. Tommy called at 11:53 p.m., said he had evidence of weapons trafficking and money laundering. Brennan was planning to meet with him this morning. She looked at Vincent, who was being loaded into an ambulance under guard. Looks like we've got murder charges to add to the list. And if this weapons thing pans out, federal charges too. It'll pan out, Jackson said. He held up the USB drive. Everything you need is right here. 3 years of records, customers, transactions, shipment manifests. Kate Morales compiled it all before she left Vincent. She can testify to its authenticity. Where is Kate? Chen asked. Safe, Leia said, and she's going to stay that way until Vincent's behind bars. Chen studied them both for a long moment. You two are either very brave or very stupid. Someone already said that to me, Leia said with a ghost of a smile. I'm starting to think it's both. Yeah, me too. Chen held out her hand for the USB drive. I'm going to need that. Evidence. Jackson hesitated, then handed it over. Make copies. Kate's got backups in a safety deposit box, but you should duplicate everything, just in case. Just in case of what? Vincent's got reach, money, connections, people who might try to make evidence disappear. Not on my watch. Chen pocketed the drive, but I appreciate the concern. Now all of you need to come to the station. Individual statements, complete timeline of events, the whole 9 yards. And this time I want the truth. All of it. No more holding back. They spent the rest of the morning at the police station. Leia told Chen everything. The sabotage, the USB drive, Kate's escape, the warehouse full of weapons. Diego and Marcus corroborated her story. Jackson filled in the history with Vincent, the club politics, Mikey's death 5 years ago. By the time they were finished, it was past noon. Chen had pages of notes and a case that would make her career. You're free to go, she told them finally, but stay available. The DA is going to want to talk to you, probably multiple times. What about Vincent? Jackson asked. He's not going anywhere. We've got him on attempted murder, conspiracy, weapons trafficking, and about 15 other charges. Federal prosecutors are already circling. This is going to be a long case, but he's done, finished. Jackson nodded slowly. The tension he'd been carrying for days seemed to drain out of him all at once, leaving him looking older and more tired than Leia had ever seen him. They walked out of the station into bright afternoon sunlight. Diego stretched his joints, popping. I don't know about you guys, he said, but I'm going home, sleeping for about 16 hours and then getting very, very drunk. Sounds like a plan, Marcus agreed. You coming? Boss? Jackson shook his head. You two go ahead. I've got something I need to do first. Diego and Marcus left, walking toward the parking lot with the loose-limbed gait of people who'd survived something they shouldn't have. Jackson turned to Leia. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For stopping me from killing Vincent. You were right, Mikey wouldn't have wanted that, and I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. You saved my life, Leia countered. Pretty sure that makes us even. Not even close. Jackson pulled out his truck keys, tossed them to her. Come on, I'll give you a ride back to Kate. Then we need to talk about your future. They picked up Kate from the machine shop. She'd been pacing like a caged animal, her pistol never far from her hand. When she saw them alive and uninjured, she actually cried brief, hard sobs that shook her whole body. I thought when you didn't come back, I thought he'd killed you both, she managed. Almost did, Leia said, but we're stubborn. They told Kate everything. She listened without interrupting, her face cycling through a dozen emotions. When they finished, she was quiet for a long time. So, it's over, she said finally. Vincent's arrested. The evidence is with the police. It's really over. It's over, Jackson confirmed. Kate sat down heavily on an overturned crate. I don't know what to do now. I've spent 3 years living in fear, looking over my shoulder, waiting for Vincent to kill me. And now he can't. He's in custody. He's going to prison. And I don't know how to live without that fear. You'll learn, Leia said. Same as I'm learning how to live without being invisible. One day at a time. Jackson cleared his throat. Which brings me to what I wanted to talk about. Leia, you can't keep living in this place. It's not safe, it's not healthy, and you deserve better. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're surviving, and there's a difference. So here's what's going to happen. I've got a guest room in my house. It's yours if you want it, rent-free until you get on your feet. Leia stared at him. Jackson, I can't. Yes, you can, and you will, because you've earned it. You fixed my bike when nobody else could. You exposed a traitor. You helped take down a weapons trafficker. You saved my life. The least I can do is give you a place to sleep that has running water and heat. I don't take charity. Good. Because this isn't charity. This is payment for services rendered. You work for me now, officially. Full-time mechanic at Iron and Chrome. 40 hours a week, benefits, the whole package. You'll earn your keep. I'm not certified. Your father taught you everything Ray Turner knew. That's certification enough for me. You can get the official papers later if you want, but right now I need someone I can trust in my garage. Someone who sees things other people miss. That's you. Leia felt something cracking open in her chest again, that dangerous feeling of hope. What about Kate? What about her? She needs a place to stay too. Witness protection or something. Jackson looked at Kate. You want to work at a garage? You know bikes. I ran Diablo Customs books for 2 years before I figured out what Vincent was really doing, Kate said. I can do accounting, payroll, customer relations, and I'm a decent welder. Then you're hired too. Same deal room at my place until you get sorted. Pay commensurate with experience. Jackson's face was serious. But understand you testify against Vincent. Full cooperation with the prosecution. That's non-negotiable. I was already planning to, Kate said quietly. I've got a lot to atone for. Testifying is just the start. Good. Jackson stood, looked at both of them. Then let's get out of here. Get you two settled. Tomorrow we start rebuilding the garage, our lives, all of it. They walked out of the machine shop together, 3 people bound by violence and survival, by secrets shared and trust earned. The afternoon sun was warm on Leia's face, and for the first time in years, she felt like she might actually have a future. At Jackson's house, a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood, Kate disappeared into her assigned room almost immediately exhausted. Leia stood in the doorway of hers, taking it in. Clean sheets on a real bed, a desk, a lamp, windows with actual curtains. It's not much, Jackson said from behind her. It's everything, Leia corrected. That night, she lay in bed, a real bed with a real mattress and real pillows, and thought about her father. About all the hours in his garage, all the lessons he'd taught her, all the dreams he'd had for her future. Dreams that had died with him. Or maybe not died, maybe just delayed. She fell asleep thinking about tomorrow, about working on bikes again, about having a purpose, about mattering. When she woke the next morning, she found Kate in the kitchen making coffee. They sat at the table in comfortable silence, sipping the hot, bitter liquid, processing everything that had happened. You know what's strange, Kate said eventually. I feel guilty for feeling relieved. Tommy's dead. Vincent's men are dead. And I'm sitting here drinking coffee in a safe house feeling grateful. What does that make me? Human, Laya said. Just human. Is that enough? Has to be. It's all any of us are. Jackson came downstairs at 7, looking rested for the first time since Leia had met him. You two ready to go to work? Born ready, Laya said. Iron and chrome was a mess. Water damage from the sprinklers, bullet holes in the walls, blood stains on the concrete. But the mechanics were already there, Diego Marcus and half a dozen others cleaning, repairing, putting things back together. When Laya walked in, they stopped working. For a moment, she thought they were going to throw her out, tell her she didn't belong. Then Diego started clapping. Marcus joined in. Soon every mechanic in the garage was applauding, and Laya felt her face flush hot. What's this for? She asked. For being a badass, Diego said. Word got around. What you did at the mill, taking on Vincent and his crew. You're a legend. I didn't do anything special. You survived, Marcus interrupted. In this business, that's special enough. Jackson clapped his hands. All right, back to work, everyone. We've got customers waiting and bills to pay. Diego finished the Softail rebuild. Marcus, the Electroglide, needs new brake pads. And Laya, he gestured to a pristine Indian chief sitting in Bay 3. Customer says it's running rough. Diagnose it, fix it, and show these jokers how it's done. Leia walked to the Indian, ran her hand along the fuel tank. The metal was warm under her palm, almost alive. She grabbed a socket set, opened the toolkit, and got to work. Within 20 minutes, she'd found the problem: a loose vacuum line and a clogged injector. Simple fixes, but ones that required a careful eye to spot. She had the bike purring within an hour. Jackson inspected her work, nodded approval. Good, fast, and clean. That's how we do it here. That's how my dad taught me. Ray Turner would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. Over the next few weeks, Leia settled into a rhythm. Wake up in a real bed, shower in a real bathroom, eat breakfast that wasn't canned soup or stale bread, go to work at a garage where people knew her name and respected her skills, come home to a place that felt tentatively like home. Detective Chen called regularly with updates. The case against Vincent was building like a tidal wave. Federal prosecutors had taken over, charging him with weapons trafficking, conspiracy, racketeering, and murder. The USB drive had provided evidence linking him to 16 different criminal organizations across 3 states. His customer list read like a who's who of America's most dangerous people. Kate testified before a grand jury. Leia and Jackson gave depositions. Diego and Marcus provided statements about the garage shooting. Every piece of evidence, every witness account built the walls of Vincent's prison higher and thicker. 2 months after the Henderson Mill confrontation, Chen called with news. Vincent's lawyers are offering a plea deal, she said. Life in prison without parole in exchange for testimony against his suppliers and customers. Is the DA taking it? Jackson asked. They were in his office, Chen on speakerphone. Still deciding. On one hand, life without parole is essentially a death sentence for a 60-year-old. On the other hand, his testimony could take down some very dangerous people. It's a complicated call. What do you think? Leia asked. I think he should rot in a cell until he dies. But I'm a cop, not a prosecutor. My job is to build the case. Their job is to decide how to use it. Chen paused. There is one other thing. Vincent's been asking to see you, Leia. Me, why? He won't say, just keeps requesting a visit. You're under no obligation to go. I'll go, Leia interrupted. Leia, Jackson started. I'll go, she repeated. I want to look him in the eye and see what he has to say. The prison visit was arranged for the following week. Jackson insisted on driving her, and Kate came along for support. They sat in the waiting room while Leia went through security, surrendered her possessions, and was led to a visitation booth. Vincent sat on the other side of the glass, looking diminished. Prison orange instead of leather. Hollow-eyed instead of confident. His right wrist was in a cast, Jackson's work from Henderson Mill. He picked up the phone. Leia picked up hers. Thank you for coming, Vincent said. His voice was hoarse. What do you want? To apologize. Leia almost laughed. You think an apology changes anything? No, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry for threatening you, for trying to kill you, for dragging you into something that was never your fight. Vincent looked down at his cast. Prison gives you a lot of time to think, to see yourself clearly, and I don't like what I see. Good, you shouldn't. The girl who fixed Jackson's bike, the one nobody noticed, nobody respected, she took me down. There's irony in that. I spent years building an empire being someone people feared. And in the end, I was defeated by someone I considered nobody. I'm not nobody, Leia said quietly. I never was. You just couldn't see it. No, I couldn't. And that was my mistake. Vincent leaned forward. I'm going to die in here. Whether it's the plea deal or a trial, the outcome's the same. Life behind bars. But before I do, I want you to know you were right to stop Jackson from killing me. Not because I deserve mercy. I don't. But because you saved him from becoming like me. And that, his voice broke. That might be the only good thing to come out of this whole mess. That and the fact that your weapons aren't killing people anymore. Yes, that too. Vincent set down the phone, raised his hand to the glass in a gesture that might have been farewell or might have been surrender. Leia hung up without responding and walked away. She didn't look back. Outside, Jackson and Kate were waiting. How'd it go? Jackson asked. He apologized. Did you accept? No, apologies don't erase what someone's done, but I listened, and now I'm done. I don't need to think about Vincent Cross ever again. They drove back to the garage in silence. When they arrived, a surprise was waiting, a custom Harley Sportster, midnight blue, with silver pinstripes, sitting in Leia's usual bay, with a bow on the handlebars. What is this? Leia breathed. Your bike, Jackson said. Figured every mechanic needs a ride. This one's been sitting in storage for years. Belonged to Mikey. I've been meaning to restore it, but I couldn't bring myself to touch it. Too many memories. But I think he'd want you to have it. Someone who'd appreciate it. Someone who'd ride it the way he did. Leia ran her hand along the fuel tank, feeling tears prick her eyes. Jackson, I can't take your brother's bike. Yes, you can, and you will, because Mikey would have liked you, would have respected what you did. Hell, he probably would have asked you out. Jackson's smile was bittersweet. Take it, ride it, make new memories. That's what he would have wanted. Leia swung her leg over the seat, feeling the weight and balance of the machine beneath her. She turned the key and the engine roared to life, a perfect throaty rumble that spoke of power and freedom and endless roads stretching to the horizon. Diego whooped. Marcus whistled. Kate smiled genuinely for the first time since Leia had known her. And Leia felt something she hadn't felt in 4 years. She felt like she was home. 6 months after Vincent's arrest, Leia stood in front of Iron and Chrome on at sunrise, watching the neon sign flicker to life. Her Sportster, Mikey's Sportster, sat parked at the curb, chrome gleaming in the early light. She'd ridden it every day since Jackson gave it to her, putting 3,000 miles on it, learning every quirk and personality trait the machine possessed. The garage door rolled up, and Diego stuck his head out. You coming in, or you planning to stand there all morning looking philosophical? Can I do both? Not on my watch. We've got 7 bikes scheduled for service today, say, and Marcus called in sick, again. Leia walked inside, grabbed her tool belt from her locker. The locker had her name on it, now professionally engraved, not just a piece of tape with marker. Next to it hung the coveralls Jackson had ordered for her with clutch embroidered over the chest pocket. The nickname had stuck, spreading from the Hells Angels through the local biker community until even customers called her by it. Kate was in the office working through invoices with the kind of meticulous attention that made the garage's finances actually make sense for the first time in years. She'd testified against Vincent 3 times now, grand jury preliminary hearing, and a deposition for the federal case. Each time she'd walked out of the courthouse looking lighter, like she'd shed another layer of guilt. Morning, Kate called through the office window. Coffee's fresh. You're a saint. Saint's a stretch, but I make decent coffee. Jackson arrived at 7:30, which was late for him. He'd been sleeping better lately, the permanent tension in his shoulders gradually easing. The garage was thriving. Word had spread about Leia's diagnostic skills, and customers were booking appointments weeks in advance. The waiting list for her to work on a bike was longer than anyone else's. Got something for you, Jackson said, handing Leia an envelope. Inside was a certificate, ASE, Master Technician Certification, fully official, with her name printed in formal script. You took the test. Leia's voice was barely a whisper. You took the test 2 months ago. Results came back yesterday. Perfect score, by the way. Not a single question wrong. I don't remember. Because I told you it was a practice test. Figured you'd be less nervous that way. Jackson's smile was genuine. Congratulations, Clutch. You are officially one of the best mechanics in the state. Diego let out a whoop from across the garage. That's our girl, youngest master tech in the region. Probably the only homeless girl turned master tech in history, Leia said, but she was smiling. Ex-homeless, Kate corrected from the office. You've got an address now, bank account, credit score. You're legitimate. The word should have felt triumphant, but they made Leia uncomfortable. Legitimate, like she'd been illegitimate before. Like the years of survival, of fighting to stay alive, had been somehow less valid than the life she lived now. What's wrong? Jackson asked, reading her expression. Nothing, just thinking. About how fast things change. 6 months ago, I was sleeping in an abandoned building. Now I've got a master tech certification and a nickname. It doesn't feel real. It's real, you earned it. Did I just get lucky? Right place, right time, right sabotaged motorcycle. Jackson's face grew serious. Luck gets you in the door. Skill keeps you in the room. You've proven your skill 100 times over. Don't discount that. Before Leia could respond, a customer walked in, a woman in her 50s with a Hell's Angels patch on her vest and a scowl that could strip paint. I need Clutch, the woman announced. Nobody else touches my bike. Diego gestured grandly toward Leia. Your wish is our command, Mrs. Hendricks. The woman, Charlie Hendricks, treasurer of the Angels Women's Auxiliary, fixed Leia with an appraising stare. You're the girl who took down Vincent Cross. I helped, Leia said carefully. A lot of people helped. But you're the one who figured out the sabotage. You're the one who went to Henderson Mill alone. You're the one who didn't back down. Charlie stuck out her hand. That takes guts. I respect guts. They shook. Charlie's grip was strong enough to crack walnuts. My fat boy's making a noise, Charlie continued. High-pitched whine when I hit 60. Been to 3 mechanics. They all say it's normal, but I know my bike. Something's wrong. Leia spent an hour with the fat boy, tracing every system, checking every connection. Finally, she found a hairline crack in the primary chain case, so small most mechanics would miss it. The crack was flexing at speed, creating the whine Charlie heard. This would have failed completely in another 1,000 miles, Leia explained. Chain would have come loose, torn through the case, probably locked up your rear wheel. At 60 miles an hour, that's a death sentence. Charlie's face went pale. Jesus. I can fix it. New primary case, new gaskets, maybe 6 hours of work. But you need to not ride it until it's done. How much? Parts and labor, probably 800. Make it 1,000 and do it today. I've got to run tomorrow morning. Can't miss it. Leia glanced at Jackson, who nodded. We'll make it happen. She worked through lunch through her normal breaks, pushing to get the fat boy finished. Kate brought her a sandwich at 2, which Leia ate in 4 bites without tasting. Diego assisted, handing her tools, holding components in place while she torqued bolts. By 6 p.m., the bike was done. Charlie test rode it around the block, came back grinning. Perfect. Not a sound. You saved my life, kid. Just doing my job. Bullshit. You could have half-assed it like the other mechanics. But you didn't. You cared. Charlie pulled out a wad of cash, counted out $1,500 bills. The extras for caring. Charlie, that's too much. It's exactly right, and I'm telling everyone I know they need work done, they come to Clutch. You hear me? Word spread fast in the biker community. By the end of the week, Leia had a 2-month waiting list. By the end of the month, people were calling from 3 states away, asking when they could get an appointment. You're going to need to hire help, Kate said, reviewing the appointment schedule. You can't keep working 14-hour days. You'll burn out. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're exhausted. I can see it. Leia wanted to argue, but Kate was right. The success was overwhelming. She'd gone from invisible to in demand, and the adjustment was harder than she'd expected. Every customer wanted to hear the story, how she'd taken down Vincent, how she'd survived, how she'd gone from homeless to master tech. She was tired of telling it, tired of being treated like a curiosity instead of a mechanic. Take tomorrow off, Jackson ordered. That's not a suggestion. You've worked 23 days straight. You need rest. There are bikes scheduled. Diego and I can handle them. You rest. Leia spent her day off riding. She took the Sportster north into the mountains, pushing it through curves, feeling the engine respond to every input. The wind stripped away her thoughts, leaving only the road and the machine and the moment. She stopped at a diner in a small town 2 hours from home. The place was empty except for an elderly waitress and a trucker nursing coffee at the counter. Leia ordered pie and coffee, sat in a booth by the window. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Leia Turner? A woman's voice, professional and crisp. Who's asking? My name is Jennifer Morrison. I'm a producer for a documentary series about remarkable people in working-class America. I'd like to talk to you about being featured in an episode. Leia's stomach dropped. I'm not interested. Please just hear me out. Your story is inspiring. My story is private. The world needs to hear stories like yours. Young woman overcomes homelessness, solves a crime, becomes a successful mechanic. I said no. Leia hung up her hands, shaking. The phone rang again. Same number. She declined the call, blocked it, and sat staring at her pie without appetite. She didn't want to be inspiring, didn't want to be a symbol or a story or a documentary subject. She just wanted to work on bikes, earn a living, and be left alone. But the world apparently had other ideas. By the time she got back to town, there were 3 news vans parked outside Iron and Chrome. Reporters with cameras and microphones crowded the entrance. Jackson stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking like he might start throwing people. No comment, he was saying. She's not available. Come back with a warrant or don't come back at all. Leia parked the Sportster in the alley behind the garage, slipped in through the back door. Kate was in the office on the phone, her voice tight with frustration. I don't care if you have freedom of the press. She said no. That means no. Kate slammed the phone down, looked up at Leia. They've been calling all day. Newspapers, TV stations, podcast producers. Apparently someone leaked your story to the media. Now everyone wants a piece of you. Who leaked it? No idea. Could be anyone. Cop, prosecutor, court clerk. Hell, could be one of Vincent's lawyers trying to influence public opinion before trial. Diego poked his head into the office. There's a guy from CNN asking if Leia will do a live interview tomorrow morning. Tell him to go to hell, Leia said. Wish him. Already did. He said he'd wait. Then he'll be waiting a long time. The media circus lasted 3 days. Reporters camped outside the garage, ambushing customers, asking invasive questions. Business dropped by half. People didn't want to deal with the chaos. Jackson finally hired private security to keep the reporters back, but they just moved across the street and used telephoto lenses. On the 4th day, Leia snapped. She walked out the front door straight to the cluster of reporters and stood in front of their cameras. You want a statement? Here's your statement. I'm a mechanic. That's it. I work on motorcycles. I don't want to be on TV. I don't want to be in your documentary. I don't want to be your inspiration porn. I just want to be left alone to do my job. So please, all of you, go away. Find someone else to harass. She turned and walked back inside without waiting for questions. The reporters shouted after her, but by the next morning, most of them were gone. A few articles ran, Reluctant Hero Refuses Fame, and Mechanic Who Took Down Arms Dealer Shuns Spotlight. But within a week, the media had moved on to the next story. Life returned to something resembling normal. The appointment schedule filled back up. Customers stopped asking about Vincent and started asking about their bikes. Leia worked, rode, slept, and repeated the cycle. 3 months later, Detective Chen called with news. Vincent took the plea deal, she said. Life without parole. In exchange, he gave up names, his suppliers, his customers, everyone in his network. ATF's making arrests across 6 states. It's the biggest weapons trafficking bust in a decade. Good, Jackson said. They were in the office again, Chen on speaker. He deserves to rot. There's more. As part of the deal, Vincent agreed to forfeit all assets obtained through criminal activity. That includes Diablo Customs. The building, the equipment, everything. It's going to auction next month. Leia and Jackson exchanged glances. What are you thinking? Kate asked. I'm thinking that building's in a good location, Jackson said slowly. And we need more space. We've been turning away customers because we can't keep up with demand. You want to buy Vincent's garage? Leia's voice was incredulous. I want to buy a building that used to be Vincent's garage. By the time we're done with it, it'll be something completely different. Something better. They went to the auction together, Jackson, Kate, Leia, and a banker who handled Iron and Chrome's accounts. The building went for half what it was worth. Nobody wanted to be associated with Vincent Cross. Jackson's bid won easily. "What are we going to do with it?" Diego asked when they told him. "Expand," Jackson said. "Aquan, Iron and Chrome East, specialize in custom builds and restorations. Leia runs it." Leia's jaw dropped. "What? You heard me? You run it. Hire your own mechanics. Build your own reputation. It's time." "Jackson, I'm 24 years old. I've been a mechanic for 6 months. You've been a mechanic your whole life. You've just been getting paid for it for 6 months. There's a difference. I don't know how to run a business. You'll learn, and Kate will help with the books. I'll handle the paperwork and licensing. You just focus on building bikes and building a team." Leia looked at Kate, who nodded encouragingly. "You can do this. I know you can." "But what if I fail?" "Then you fail it," Jackson said simply, "and you learn from it. That's how life works. But I don't think you'll fail. I think you'll succeed beyond anything you imagined." The renovation took 4 months. They gutted Diablo Customs, completely stripped it down to bare walls and concrete floors, erased every trace of Vincent's presence. New paint, new equipment, new sign out front, Iron and Chrome East with a smaller line underneath, custom builds by Clutch. Leia hired 3 mechanics, 2 veterans from other garages and one 20-year-old kid fresh out of trade school who reminded her of herself. She trained them personally, passing on everything her father had taught her, everything she'd learned from Jackson. The grand opening drew a crowd bikers from across the state, curious to see what the girl who'd taken down Vincent Cross would build. Leia gave a short speech, her voice steady despite her nerves. "My father used to say that motorcycles are freedom on 2 wheels. Freedom to go anywhere, be anyone, leave your troubles behind. But freedom isn't just about riding away. Sometimes it's about standing your ground, about fixing what's broken, including yourself. This garage is about both kinds of freedom. We'll build you a bike that'll take you anywhere, but we'll also be here when you need a place to stand." The crowd erupted in applause. Charlie Hendricks whistled so loud Leia's ears rang. Business exploded. Within 6 months, Iron and Chrome East had a 6-month waiting list for custom builds. Within a year, Leia had to hire 4 more mechanics just to keep up with demand. On the 1-year anniversary of Vincent's arrest, Jackson threw a party at the original Iron and Chrome. The entire extended Hells Angels family showed up, along with customers, friends, and half the town's motorcycle community. Kate pulled Leia aside halfway through the evening. "I've got something for you," Kate said. She handed Leia an envelope. Inside was a check, $50,000. "What is this?" Vincent's assets were liquidated. The proceeds went to a victims fund for people harmed by his weapons. But there was a separate fund money from his legitimate business operations. That money went to employees who were affected by his crimes. Tommy's widow got some, his ex-employees got some, and you got some for exposing everything. "Kate, I can't take this." "Yes, you can. Use it for the business. Use it for yourself. Use it to help other people who are where you were a year ago. I don't care, but it's yours. You earned it." Leia stared at the check, overwhelmed. $50,000. More money than she'd ever imagined having. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you," Kate countered. "You gave me a chance to do the right thing. You didn't have to. You could have turned me away, told Jackson to throw me out. But you didn't. You saw someone trying to make amends, and you helped. That's rare. You would have done the same. Maybe, but you did it first." Later that night, after the party wound down, Leia sat on her Sportster outside the garage, listening to the engine idle. Jackson came out, 2 beers in hand. He gave her one, leaned against his truck. "Hell of a year," he said. "Hell of a year," Leia agreed. "Got any regrets then?" "About what?" "Taking this path, working here, getting involved with all the Vincent stuff. If you could go back, would you change anything?" Leia considered the question. A year ago, she'd been sleeping in an abandoned building, pushing a mop invisible. Now she ran her own garage, had her own team, had her name on a business license, and a master tech certificate on the wall. "No," she said finally, "I wouldn't change anything. All of it, the good, the bad, the terrifying, it made me who I am, and I like who I am now." "Good," Jackson said, "because we like who you are too." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking beer, watching the stars come out. Somewhere in the distance, a motorcycle engine roared, someone heading out for a night ride, chasing freedom on 2 wheels. Your father would be proud, Jackson said quietly. Ray Turner's daughter running her own garage building, custom bikes, making a name for herself. He'd be so damn proud. Leia felt tears prick her eyes. You think, I know. He was my friend Leia. I knew him well. And he used to talk about you all the time, his daughter who could diagnose problems just by listening to an engine who had grease in her veins and gasoline in her soul. He saw your potential. He just didn't live long enough to see you realize it. I miss him, Leia said. Every day. I know, but he's not really gone. He's in every bike you fix, every skill you use, every lesson you teach your mechanics. He lives on through you. They finished their beers. Jackson headed home. Leia stayed a while longer, sitting on Mikey's Sportster under the stars, thinking about her father, about Mikey, about Tommy, and all the people who'd been lost along the way. Then she started the engine, felt the familiar rumble beneath her, and rode into the night, not running from anything but riding toward everything. 6 months later, a young woman walked into Iron and Chrome East. She was maybe 19, with hollow eyes and clothes that had seen too many nights on the street. She carried a backpack that held everything she owned. I heard you're hiring, the girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. Leia looked up from the engine she was rebuilding. She saw herself in that girl. The desperation, the hope, the fear of asking for something you didn't think you deserved. You know bikes, Leia asked. My uncle taught me, before he died. What's your name? Sarah. Leia set down her wrench, wiped her hands on a rag. Sarah, I'm Clutch, and yeah, we're hiring. You got any experience? Just what my uncle showed me, mostly Harleys. That's a start. Can you be here tomorrow at 7? Sarah's eyes widened. You mean you're giving me a job just like that? Not just like that. You'll start as an apprentice, minimum wage. You prove yourself, you get promoted. But you show up on time, you work hard, and you learn everything I teach you. Deal. Deal, Sarah breathed. Good. One more thing. You got a place to stay. Sarah hesitated, then shook her head. There's a room above the garage. Nothing fancy, but it's got a bed and a bathroom. You can stay there until you get on your feet. Rent comes out of your paycheck, but we'll keep it reasonable. Sarah's face crumpled. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. Because someone did it for me once, and because everyone deserves a chance. So you want the job, or not? Yes, Sarah said, her voice stronger now. Yes, I want it. Then you've got it. Welcome to Iron and Chrome East. Now help me finish this rebuild. You're going to learn how to properly torque head bolts. They worked side by side until closing. Sarah asking questions, Leia answering with the patience her father had shown her, passing on knowledge that refused to die. That night, Leia locked up the garage, looked at the sign glowing in the darkness. Iron and Chrome East Custom Builds by Clutch, and felt something settle deep in her chest. She'd found what she'd been searching for without knowing she was searching. Purpose, belonging, home. She was Clutch, master mechanic, business owner, mentor to the lost and invisible. And she was exactly where she needed to be.